Welcome to Transformation Accelerated, Changing the Game's webcast, where we speak to standout leaders who are reshaping their organization and often the sector they operate in. For more information on Changing the Game, the playbook for leading business transformation published through Wiley, and the Changing the Game Academy that delivers executive upskilling by international industry experts across a growing range of high-quality online cohort-based short courses, please go to ctgacademy.com. Today, I'm very excited. My guest is Warren Billington, who is Chief Executive Officer at Sypht. Warren is a business leader and entrepreneur with over 20 years experience in senior commercial leadership roles across the globe. He specializes in building and scaling successful technology organizations to drive rapid growth. Warren was appointed Chief Executive Officer at Sypht in 2018. Sypht helps businesses accelerate digital transformation by extracting valuable information from documents using AI and machine learning to improve productivity, capacity, and reduce risk. Having recently merged with nChoice, Sypht works with businesses of all sizes globally to automate intelligent document processing. Prior to Sypht, Warren has held multiple senior positions in global data, analytics, and marketing technology organizations, including Managing Director of Signal, VP and MD of Axiom, Australia and New Zealand, and he co-founded and exited successfully the mobile technology business Fifth Finger in Australia and the US. Warren, very much welcome to Transformation Accelerated. Good to have you with us.
Yep, delighted to be here, Graham. Thank you.
Thank you. Look, I thought before getting into some of the questions, particularly around the AI and digital technology space, I thought I'd ask whether you see yourself, given that career background, as a born innovator, a purebred innovator, or how you see yourself placed in that sort of realm.
Okay, interesting question. Whether it's a born innovator, I think what I would say is, on reflection of my career, I've certainly worked in technology organizations that have been, leading edge from an innovation perspective. So it's clearly something that I'm passionate about. But whether that's something that I've been born with, but having started in working in corporate environments, I can never see myself moving outside of the entrepreneurial framework of working with startup technology businesses. I just love building businesses from ground up and scaling those businesses, and really enjoy commercializing those businesses. Defining go-to-market strategies, execution of those plans to then grow those businesses and scale them. So. It's definitely in my DNA. And I think I also become, particularly intrigued around, I guess, difficult periods that we've just navigated or still navigating vis-a-vis the pandemic, and even as there's more, broader market volatility. I think this is the time to innovate. I think crisis breeds innovation, and we'll move on to what I'm working on at the moment. But I think there's a unique opportunity in times like this for innovation to really drive forward and come to the fore. And there are lots of examples of businesses that have done that well in recessionary times that are now some of the biggest technology organizations there are globally.
I'm sort of interested to understand, given your mindset then around that, is that if you're obviously personally more than happy living within a highly disruptive, changing environment, and you've lived on that sort of edge for most of your career, but obviously you've been you've hired and you've worked with people that might not necessarily be as happy sitting on that point. Have you found it difficult, challenging, or easy to sort of migrate people into a space where that they're more comfortable with that? How have you sort of been able to deal with a body of employees that have different sort of mindsets?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think I'd answer that in terms of experiences where I've potentially inherited certain teams that need to go on a level of transition or transformation, or whether as I guess is the case most recently with Sypht, which was a venture that I started from day one of incorporation. And therefore, you're in a strong position then to be able to bring in people into the organization with the right skill set. And if I reflect on people that I've hired, some of them actually have come from corporate backgrounds and that have made effective transitions into more of a startup environment. But I think it's just being mindful that it is a journey. It's a very different environment, and as long as you're aware of that and you're there to support those people with that transition, then it could work well. Because I think there are very translatable skill sets both ways. Somebody coming from a strong corporate background that can really apply some of the rigor and discipline from a process and operational perspective, but also then surrounding those individuals with people that can move in a more agile framework and move quickly.
Yeah. That's a really great insight. Well, let's talk a bit more about Sypht then.
Yeah.
Incredibly innovative company, as you've just said. Built from a greenfield space from the ground up, which is amazing, given where the business has got to today. How, at a high level, at least, is digital technology reshaping Syft's sector where it exists in the landscape?
Yeah, I guess in the context, if we think about overall digital transformation and the acceleration that we're seeing, organizations are looking for digital capabilities that really allow them to connect seamlessly across the organization, with customers, with suppliers, with employees. And our business and our sector is very much part of that story and journey, especially as it relates to processes within organizations, whether that's back office or front office processes, but processes that are fundamentally broken, inefficient, and then do have an impact on that overall digital transformation framework. So at Sypht, the problems that we're solving really are some complex challenges for businesses, where there are high degrees of process inefficiency, especially as it relates to documentation. So, documents have been around for a long time. Data continues to grow exponentially within organizations. So, as much as 80% of data that is generated within enterprises is unstructured data. Large proportion of that still within documents. So actually more than 50% of all data that enterprises actually generate and are handling are contained within documents. And a lot of that data is unstructured. So it's actually quite difficult and complex to be able to capture that data efficiently and derive value from that data. And that's essentially where we saw an opportunity to disrupt. Not saying there wasn't technology, legacy technology in place to try and address some of those problems. Technology such as OCR technology that you might have heard of. But we saw very quickly that technology was not delivering up to the expectations of enterprises, just in terms of its speed and accuracy, and delivering the level of automation that businesses are looking for as it relates to business processes. So we developed a platform which is an AI-driven platform using the latest in machine learning technology from documents, and then delivers the real benefits for organizations, reducing cost, time, improving productivity as it relates to the management of documents across the life cycle of documents, and then essentially being able to connect that data into downstream systems, because that's equally important, right? As part of an overall digital transformation journey, organizations are looking to automate processes, but then be able to feed that data and those insights that they've captured into technologies and integrate them really easily. So, we've developed a SaaS platform. It's super easy to seamlessly connect the platform into ERPs or enterprise content management systems. We're seeing the mainstream marketing service providers now looking for automation tools to be able to connect into their environments. So very much looking at how do you deliver that seamless end-to-end experience where the document processing component is way more efficient than it used to be.
Do you think that coming into 2022, following the last couple of years, do you think there's an increase from your perspective and the customers and enterprises that you support? Do you see that? What I'm hearing is there's been an acceleration perhaps in the desire for these sorts of technologies to help support drive efficiency in businesses. It's not as if an appetite for that new technology has waned or even paused. It feels like it's accelerated, right?
Yeah, it absolutely has accelerated. If I give you the growth expectations within the sector, so the sector that we're directly involved in is around intelligent process automation. So that's where you're using AI, ML-driven, data capture capabilities that are then connected to automation tools like the RPAs, the robotic process automation tools. That whole industry will be worth close to $21 billion in 2026, and that's with a CAGR compound growth rate of around 15% between now and 2026. So it's not a small market. It's growing exponentially. It very much fits within the framework of digital transformation, because to deliver that end-to-end connected, seamless experience across customers, suppliers, employees, then business processes need to be automated and efficient as much as possible. And I think if we again touch on the last couple of years during the pandemic, we did not see a waning or slowing down. We saw an acceleration. And probably not surprisingly, where businesses were going through turmoil, adapting to new ways of working, remote working, needing to adopt digitization in a more accelerated way, but also fundamentally looking at ways to reduce cost in their business operationally. So our technology has been part of that, being able to automate processes that were more costly and timely within organizations, and therefore really driving more improved productivity across operations. But interestingly, I think during that period, it's not just about cost savings, it's also how do you continue to compete and differentiate in tough market conditions. So businesses also looking at ways to automate that not only saves costs, but also then has a positive impact on experiences internally with employees, but also improving customer experiences. So if you think about the processing of invoices within an accounts payable function, then a lot of that invoice processing is manual. It's not particularly fruitful and enjoyable work. And by automating those processes, what a lot of organizations are now able to do is actually redirect and transition their teams to work on more creative outlets, to be able to work with customers directly, to improve customer service. And during these times, again, not just cost-saving exercise, but shifting focus towards growth and being able to grow those customers more efficiently.
So that's interesting. So it sounds like the business case, so to speak, around harnessing the sorts of technologies that Sypht has is perhaps founded on bottom line productivity, cost cutting, but actually there's perhaps a fast follower around customer dividend, growth dividend, and actually probably over the few years that the business has existed, perhaps those things are starting to be included in the original business case because they're becoming so evident.
Yeah, look, absolutely. If we work with a number of customers within the NDIS space, so National Disability, where really interestingly, those businesses have exploded. The growth has been phenomenal over the last few years, and one of the real issues for those businesses, as their businesses have grown and scaled, they have needed to throw additional FTE at the problem, right? So accounts payable FTEs growing as the business has grown. So you just don't get that scale and profitability moving forward. So where Sypht has really helped those organizations is not necessarily replacing people from an automation perspective, but it's allowed those businesses to scale more efficiently and more profitably, and therefore in some cases even redirect some of those internal teams that were processing invoices to being able to spend more time with customers. So you get this very connected set of capabilities. It's reducing cost and improving productivity, but by the very nature, it's allowing you to redirect those individuals, those operations teams to do other things, which actually then provide a much better experience for employees. So you then in turn driving employee productivity. If they're spending more time with the customer, then you're improving customer experiences as well. So all of those areas are very much connected.
It nourishes the whole business, isn't it? Getting closer to the customer. Maybe take a step back and a step up, if we may, around what you see as the most common challenges organizations face if they're going to succeed in planning and executing transformative change. What are the top sort of two challenges, you think?
Yeah, look, I think there are more than two.
For sure.
Again, to compete, organisations, as I've said already, must connect customers, suppliers, employees across the entire organisation. So I see the challenges really being from an organisation-wide perspective. Barriers need to be broken down across the organisation. So clearly, and very relevant to our space, technology, where there is fragmented technology, not necessarily connected. We also see a lot where there is legacy technology within an organization. So it could be OCR technology, or it could be an on-premise solution, and the company wants to move to cloud. Is the unpacking of that technology. Quite often it's not just a removal or transition, plug and play to a new platform, but it's the way that technology is embedded and entrenched into the organization from a customization or workflow perspective. Again, one of our NDIS customers that has gone through an accelerated digital transformation, they've actually removed their proprietary middleware technology to then work with third parties, and they described that technology as being spaghetti and intertwined, hard to unpack. And not only that, but also the IP associated with building or creating that spaghetti has since left the organization. So that then ties into the importance of expertise, people elements, needing digital data skill sets within the organization. to be able to make that effective transition. Processes is certainly another one. Probably already spoken about that in terms of how Sypht is helping businesses in terms of automating inefficient business processes. The amount of data that continues to grow and explode within organizations, just organizations struggling to deal with the growth, tends to be siloed within organizations. So it's not just a matter of, especially with our technology, impacting on more effective business processes, but we're also providing an opportunity for organizations to capture data that they were currently not using. Data that was left on the table, valuable insights that can inform stronger business decisioning that then becomes available and can be connected into their downstream systems. Touched on people, that I think is critical. Transformation requires right skill set, data, digital, technology skill sets, change management skill sets, and that's all underpinned by having the right culture. Do you have a culture of change? And again, I've seen with certain customers where we've actually implemented our technology, and you start to see, a level of opposition from internal teams that recognize, hold on, some of the things that I was doing here within the organization are going away. They're being automated. What's my role in future? And actually then not embracing that change internally. So you've got to have the right cultural mindset and framework to support the transformation as well.
One of the things we talk about, certainly in the book, but also on the short course, is the need for the planning stages to be holistic, to not leave anybody out, to make it tangible from we talk to tangible from the boardroom to the shop floor and everyone in between.
Yeah.
But that often, or nearly always, takes a particular type of leadership, often a particular type of leadership style, from whoever is in the end responsible for that transformation. That might be the CEO, it may be another C-suite officer in some description. Do you think there's particular behavioral skill sets that the ones that have led successful transformations that you've observed have?
Yeah, I probably think about it more from the process that needs to be aligned, and I'm sure there's particular individuals that have driven transformation projects and they've got that experience and skill set, but I think fundamentally, if I think about effective leaders and stakeholders managing transformation, I agree with you. It needs to be. We're talking about business transformation here. Not just a separate digital project here. This is a change in business model and operations. It needs to sit at C-level, right? This is a C-level mandate, and the responsibility and accountability needs to sit with C-level. I think as it relates to the transformation, probably, I've seen CTOs really drive the adoption and implementation in conjunction with strong project management and change management skill sets. But I think then working alongside, invariably, like steering committee, a steering committee that they directly report into, where you've then got effective representation at a C-level. So quite often that's the CTO as well, the CEO, the COO, but and that entire process is then supported with really strong metrics, KPIs that sit at the steering committee and board level, that are clear to the CTO and the delivery and project management resources, But I'd also say it's really important to have that visibility from the supplier perspective. So I've probably sat more on the supplier side as one of the key suppliers supporting digital transformation. And I think one of the things that works particularly well is having a set of shared metrics expectations are managed effectively in terms of the supplier deliverables and outcomes that are aligned to the CTO's objectives and part of the steering committee as well. That just puts everybody on the same page in terms of what needs to be done. And then I think also, and I've had good and bad experiences from a vendor and supplier perspective. The good experiences are also driven, I'd say, by the partnership that is generated between an organization and its vendors. That there are high levels of communication, collaboration, openness and transparency as part of the project. Instances where it doesn't work is where the enterprise operates with the iron fist. It's got to be shared responsibilities. We know, Graham, that technology projects things can go wrong with technology, but as long as both parties are very open and communicative and transparent in terms of that process, then if you can build that type of partnership, then it really works particularly well. And
that's a great point, Warren. I might just interrupt you for a second, because so what I think you're saying there is that before embarking on some transformation of some significance, have a look around your supply and vendor relationships, and almost at a sort of preparatory level, ensure they're in good, healthy state, ensure the dynamics between the enterprise and the vendors are in a shape to be able to embark on the journey genuinely together.
Yeah.
That stuff that needs to be dealt with in whatever relationship sense or any commercial sense, sounds like that's a good idea to get that stuff ironed out and dealt with almost before taking the first step, because those things can be disruptive and perhaps more later down the track when you really need everyone externally and internally to lean in.
Look, totally. And I think having an effective framework to be able to manage that. So that goes back to, the importance of having aligned and shared metrics. What does success look like for all parties? So it's very clear to the vendor and to the organization and the steering committee and board that everybody is aligned to meeting those expectations. So that's an important framework. I think it can also be enriched and enhanced by some of the tools that support that as well. So that communication and relationships isn't just about a set of individuals working well together. How do you create that collaboration and communication through effective use of digital tools? So from a project management point of view, we work with Jira, and having a shared Jira board that is accessible to both the vendor and the customer, right? Total transparency.
That's great.
We work with all of our customers on customer Slack channels. So we use it internally, but also directly. So teams of people within channels are transparently communicating and collaborating when things go wrong, things need to be escalated. It's very open. So I think there's some really interesting frameworks that measurement of the project, but also the ongoing tools around collaboration and communication can really help that as well.
Yeah, great input. Okay, so bit of crystal ball time. Where do you think the AI document intelligence sector is heading, or more broadly, intelligence process automation sector heading in the next few years?
Yeah, look, so mention the growth, 21% billion US market 2026. So huge growth as digital transformation acceleration becomes mainstream. Process automation is an important component of that. I think as we enter into, or coming out of pandemic into potential recession, so indicators from an inflationary interest rate, geopolitical perspective are driving a lot of uncertainty within organizations. And interestingly, Graham, if you look at the VC market, the VC market has seen less investment in the first quarter of 2022 than it has seen for a number of years. You're starting to see ventures then that are well backed, already looking at cash conservation, ways to manage their fixed costs more effectively, becoming more efficient. And that is only going to become more heightened during potential recessionary periods. And that lends itself again to how do organizations build efficiency, cost reduction, look at ways to grow their businesses, leveraging digital technologies in a more efficient way. But I think also not just short-term measures, but also building a longer-term resilience. I think one thing that has come out of the pandemic is we're not just looking to improve productivity from a short-term perspective. It's how do we manage this level of uncertainty moving forward? How does managing strategic risk at a C-level, board level, and what are the roles of technology and automation to support that? Because 2.5 years on, we're still navigating this particular problem, and it might not go away for some time. So I think there's a much stronger long-term focus on the importance of automation, how we support business resilience moving forward, more flexible ways of working. So all of those things, I think, lead to just incredible growth and demand in this space. Probably one other element is that, certainly from a Sypht point of view, we're addressing process automation. Organizations looking at ways that how do they connect these capabilities into some of their mainstream software technologies. So you're delivering end-to-end automation, making sure that the data you're collecting is connected seamlessly into downstream systems. So a lot of M&A, investment, strategic partnerships taking place with businesses like ours and process automation businesses into mainstream software businesses. And I think we'll see that continue. And then probably the third one is just not only improving business processes, but the fact now that a lot of, and I mentioned this before, a lot of data that has been untapped and unused in organizations is now being captured. How does that deliver more value and insights into organizations? So, I would expect to see businesses really starting to build more insights and analytics capabilities out of the data that they weren't previously capturing.
Right. So this must be at least the third or fourth wave of data management in the last decade or so, or perhaps longer. But
absolutely, yeah.
There's a greater ability than there have been in terms of collecting that, managing that, structuring it, and then deploying it, I suppose.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating. Great insights into the sector there. Let's switch tracks a little bit. I'm just mindful of time. How do you keep a pace with, what's happening in the broader world of business technology? What do you read? What do you listen to?
Well, there's a book I read recently called "Changing the Game."
It's a bestseller, don't you know?
Which actually is a very informative. If you're a business looking for, a really practical framework and methodology of how to manage digital transformation, then it's really informative. So
thank you for that. Now, I need to make sure that everyone knows I didn't ask for that plug, so that's a genuine.
Absolutely,
thank you very much for that.
But outside of that, I probably have a few blogs in particular. A16Z, which is the Andreessen Horowitz blog. I just think from a technology, innovation, AI perspective is very informative. There's a blog called Back to Work, which I found really interesting in terms of the intersection around technology, work and people and the changing dynamics there. Bleeding Edge, which again is very much around technology and innovation. And I think generally from a LinkedIn perspective, I just find trawling through content within the network is pretty diverse and informative. And then probably from an industry and competitive perspective, looking through, Crunchbase and those types of information areas.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no lack of great information out there. It's finding the time to collate it and disseminate, I think, is thing. But that's some really good. I hadn't heard of Back to Work. Is that a US or?
Yes, it is out of the US. Yeah.
I'll look that one up myself. And lastly, how can people follow up this podcast, keep in touch with you? I suppose LinkedIn's probably the best way.
It's definitely, I would say LinkedIn, where I'm particularly active. Yes.
Okay, great. Well, what a fantastic conversation. That's gone really quickly, and I've really enjoyed it. And thanks for being so open about where you see your own business as well as industry that's around you. I really appreciate the time. Thank you, Warren.
No, really enjoyed it, and it was a pleasure, Graham. Thank you.
For more episodes on Transformation Accelerated, information on Changing the Game Academy, the executive short courses, consultancy, or the book itself, go to ctgacademy.com. I hope you enjoyed the webcast. See you next time.